I'd now like to show you around the Premiere Pro environment and give you a tour of the interface. To do that, I'm just going to use the blank Topa demo project that I created in the previous movie. If you didn't create a blank project, feel free to quickly do so now by choosing New Project. All right, so I'll go into Topa demo, and let's get a sense of what we're looking at here. Starting down here in the lower left, we have the project panel. This is where we're going to be importing and organizing the contents of our entire project. Now, there are several ways to import media, which we'll cover in Chapter 3. But one of the easiest ways is to simply right-click and choose Import, or go up to File and choose Import. That's keyboard shortcut Command-I, or you can simply double-click. Then you just navigate to your assets. So I know that they're in Exercise Files and then Media. And I'm just going to bring in my B-roll for now. And notice that I have a B-roll bin, and then inside there I have two categorical bins for the brewery and for the bar and tasting room. But I'm going to bring in B-roll here and then choose Import. And then here in the project panel, you can see that I have a B-roll bin. And then if I twirl this down, you can see my two bins inside. And I'm going to twirl down brewery so that we can see all of the clips that live inside there. And it's kind of hard to see right now because the project panel isn't very large. So if I'd like to expand this view, I just need to make sure that it's selected and then press the tilde key, which is right under the escape key on the keyboard, and I can see everything a lot better. All right, so if I want to view the full names of these clips, I can just hover over this column border and then drag to the right. Okay, we can see this a little bit better. And then I have lots of columns of information about each of my clips over here. And we may not be looking at the same columns of information because this is customizable. If I want to set that, I just right-click here in the toolbar and choose Metadata Display. And then I'm going to twirl down Premiere Pro Project Metadata, and I can choose exactly what data I want to look at for each of my clips. Okay, I'm going to cancel that for now because I actually want to show you a different way that you can view each of these clips. Right now I'm looking at everything in list view, which is right here. To the right of that, I have icon view. So if I switch over to icon view and I have my B-roll bin selected, you'll see that I just have a B-roll bin icon, all right? If I want to look inside there, I can double-click, okay, and I get a floating window, and I can double-click again, and I get a floating window, okay? If I want to open my bins inside of the same window, I can do that as well. So let me close these bins. And then if I want to open up the B-roll bin in the same window, I just hold down Command or Control on a PC and then double-click. And you can see that I don't get a floating window. It opens in the same window. And I'll do the same thing on brewery, Command double-click, and then here are all the clips within my brewery bin. Now there are lots of different ways that I can navigate and look at all of these clips, and I'm just going to go over a few right now. The first is hover scrub. So if I just hover and scrub, so I'm not clicking and dragging, but I'm just hovering my mouse over and moving it. I can go forward, I can go backward, but I'm just looking at all of my clips very quickly and efficiently. I can also play these clips, okay? Again, lots of different ways to play, but for now I'll just teach you one. I just select the clip, and then I'm going to press space bar to play, and I'll press it again to stop. Notice that when a clip is selected, I can't hover scrub. I can hover scrub anything else, but a selected clip is meant for playing. If I want to look at these clips larger or smaller, I come over to this slider right here, and you can actually make them nice and big. All right, so I'll go back over to the left, and if I would like to climb out of my brewery bin, I click on this button right here, and I'm climbing back through my various bins. I'll go back to list view for now. All right, let's now move to a different panel. So I'm going to minimize my project panel by selecting it and pressing tilde to minimize. And now we're going to move to the source monitor. Make sure that source is underlined and not one of these other panels, but we have source underlined. And we're going to load one of the clips from our project panel into the source. So I'll just take this first one here, brewery brew kettles. And you can see that it loads right here in the source monitor. And let's just go over a couple of ways to navigate through this clip. First, you can just scrub through. So I'm just dragging along the time bar and scrubbing through this. I can also play, Here's the on-screen play button here. It both plays and stops, so I'll press it to play and to stop. And I can also use my space bar, play and stop. The source monitor is also where I mark my shots, telling Premiere Pro where I want the shot to start and to end. And I do that by marking an in and an out point. This is my on-screen mark in button. This is my on-screen mark out button. You'll see the keyboard shortcuts are I for mark in and O for mark out. So definitely commit that to memory. We're basically going to be using shortcuts exclusively. So I'm going to press I to mark an in, and I'll move to the end of that movement, and I'll press O to mark an out. And you can see that I have just marked a 3-second and 19 frame duration in this shot. Right now, I'm just looking at the video, but I can also look at the audio of the shot if I like. I just switch over to my audio waveform, and here is my audio waveform. In this particular shot, it's not that useful, but if I wanted to see the audio waveform of someone speaking, this can be very useful. I can identify very specific moments when someone starts or finishes a word, for example. All right, so keep that in mind, but for right now, I'm going to go back over to video. And let's edit this into the timeline. As you can see, the timeline is currently empty, but the moment we make the very first edit, we have formed a sequence. There are many ways to make this edit, but for right now, we'll start with the basics and just drag and drop. So I'm just going to drag and drop this down to the timeline, and several things have happened. This is the very first shot in my sequence. As I scrub through this, you can see that I'm moving my playhead not only in the timeline, but also up here in the program monitor. Okay, so the timeline and the program monitor are synced because this is my visual output of the timeline. Also notice that I have a sequence icon over here in the project panel. I'm just going to single click and rename this immediately. I'll call this Topa Demo 1, okay? And you can see that once I've renamed it here, it's renamed here in the timeline and here in the program monitor as well. Let's do this entire process again, but just a little bit more quickly. I'm going to load the second shot here, and I'm going to mark an in and an out. Let's see, we'll mark an in here by pressing I and an out here by pressing O. So I have marked an 8-second and 20 frame duration on this shot. And let's bring that down, and I'll just drag and drop like so. And I have 2 shots in my sequence now, and as I scrub through, you can see the visual output of the program monitor responds accordingly, and of course my playheads are synced. If I would like to look at this sequence within the full view of the timeline, I press the # key to zoom to fit, and I can also zoom in and out. I press the plus key on the main part of the keyboard, not the numeric keypad, and I'll zoom in, and I can use the minus key, again on the main part of the keyboard, to zoom out. And of course I can press # to zoom to fit. I'll quickly just grab one more shot, so this third shot here, and I'll mark an in by pressing I and an out by pressing O, and we'll bring this down to the timeline, again by dragging and dropping. I'll press the # key to zoom to fit. And now if I wanted to move from edit to edit, I can use my up and down arrow keys. I use the up arrow key to move backwards 1 edit at a time, and I use the down arrow key to move forwards 1 edit at a time. So those are much larger movements, but if I want to get down to the granular, if I want to move 1 frame at a time to the left or the right, I use my left and right arrow keys. So my left arrow key goes 1 frame earlier in time, my right arrow key goes 1 frame at a time later in time. I can add shift to that to go 5 frames at a time. So shift left arrow will go 5 frames at a time to the left, and shift right arrow will go 5 frames at a time to the right. All right, so that's just a little bit on clip and timeline navigation. I just want to show you a few more things in the interface so that we're nice and comfortable before we enter the editing phase. Right now, you can see that this is my editing workspace. If I want to change this at all, I can just grab in between these various windows and drag down and up, or to the left and to the right. Or if you get in between several windows, you have 4 directions that you can move. You can also change where these windows are located. So for example, if I wanted my project panel to be all the way over here on the left-hand side, I can grab it and then just drop it wherever I see one of these drop zones. So let's go ahead and bring it all the way over here to this green drop zone. Okay, and now we have a nice big project panel, and I can adjust these other windows accordingly. If I wanted to reset this back to the normal editing workspace, again, that's Windows, Workspaces, and then make sure that editing is chosen and choose Reset to Saved Layout. And I've got my editing workspace back. Just one more thing, you'll see these double arrows all over the interface. This is how you access additional tabs. So right now I'm only seeing 2.5 tabs, but if I click on these arrows, you can see that I have many more that are available, and I can move to those very easily. These, of course, can also be torn off and brought to a different part of the interface. So if I wanted my markers to be, right here in the middle, I can just drag and drop over a drop zone, and then here is my markers panel. And then once again, let's go ahead and reset that editing workspace. All right, so hopefully you're a lot more comfortable with the basics of the Premiere Pro interface. As you continue to explore, remember your tooltips, okay? So as you hover over all of these commands and buttons, it'll tell you what it does. We'll go over each of these in the course, but you can always come back to the tooltips to remind you of what they do. All right, let's go ahead and close this demo project. I'll go to File and then Close Project. And do I want to save changes to the demo? Why not? We'll go ahead and save those changes. And we're back here at the Start screen, which sets us up for the next chapter, where we'll be going much deeper into exploring how we import and organize our assets.